Yeah, at a minimum, I would say put 10% down on a car. But before then, I would say don't don't buy a car because of what it is. I guess buy for functionality as opposed to looks and design. I'm kind of a hypocrite saying that because when I bought a car, I bought for the brand. Um, and in a previous video, I said it was the, what's up?
What brand is your car?
Anyway, so. Hey everybody, my name is Obi. For this, I'm just going to do a little interview. My twin brother Chukma is going to ask me some questions, and hopefully you all get the chance to learn a little bit more about me. My ultimate goal for College Money Habits is, I think, well, for like when I thought about the idea, I really just wanted for there to be no child, no college student, no high school student that didn't know about kind of the core components of financial literacy, which kind of includes knowledge about debt, knowledge about credit, investing, saving, budgeting, all those things. I just want like everybody to know as much as they can about all of that. And for me, it was like I had a lot of my friends that were asking me questions about these topics, and I really just wanted everybody to know all the information that I knew. I'm no expert when it comes to financial literacy. I don't know everything that there's to know about investing, about credit, but my purpose, my goal is just to share everything that I do know and some of the research that I found across the way. I guess the greatest piece of financial advice that I've received is spend less than you make. And it sounds, excuse me, it sounds so simple, but I think a lot of people go wrong, especially like as you make more money, you don't need to spend more money. And so for me, I used to work at Nordstrom, and during that time I was saving, but I wasn't saving as much as I could because I had a high car payment, and I was spending a lot of money on food, spending a lot of money on clothing, and I eventually got a job that pays like 5 times as much as I was making when I was at Nordstrom, but I still haven't increased my spending, so I'm saving a ton of money. But I mean, this is now. Like when I started, I was spending a lot of money. But I think it's important that like figure out an amount, whether it's 20%, 30%, 50% that you want to save, and then just have that amount taken out of your paychecks and put into a saving account. And so kind of learning that and getting more disciplined on saving money, not purchasing everything that I want has been really fruitful for me. And so I wish that's just something that I want to kind of emphasize and push onto other people my age as well. So my guilty pleasure is clothing, and I used to spend a lot of money on clothing, and that's just because I wasn't buying clothing frequently, and so if I saw something that I liked, usually I would just buy it kind of regardless of how much it cost. And now there's a lot of things that I want, a lot of clothing, there's jewelry, there's just a lot of things that I want, but I don't buy them just because, like for me, I hate spending money. So like I just don't like spending money. And so getting into that attitude, it's a lot easier to save just because like when I do buy something, I just think like, did I really need to buy that? Like, why did I buy that? If I bought like food, it's like, oh, well now the food's gone, the money's gone. So I forgot the question. So, yeah, with renting versus buying, I think one of the first things that you should consider, well, outside of finances, is how long do you plan to stay in the area where you're considering purchasing or renting. So, like looking specifically, like if you're looking to buy a house, say in the Seattle area, that might not make sense if you're planning on moving to like Dallas within the next 2 years, just because the process of buying a home, moving in, and then selling a house with the closing costs, and then looking for somebody to buy it, it's just going to outweigh all of the benefit, and it just wouldn't make as much sense. And so in which case renting might make a bit more sense. Buying a home is always good as far as building equity. I think I'll just use the example of myself and my brother. So my brother is moving out next month into an apartment. He doesn't know, for the most part, like where he wants to live. He's open to staying in the Seattle area. He's also open to moving elsewhere. He also isn't in a position where buying a house is kind of like the best decision, looking strictly financially. And so renting is the best course of action in that sense. However, I would say if you can afford to buy a house, I would probably do so, as opposed to renting, just because you can then rent out a room in that house to a friend or rent out several rooms in that house, and that will eventually help you pay off your mortgage. That is a good question. So I'll put my thinking cap on. So I guess if you look at it this way, so as more states open up, more people are going to be going out, more people working, more people making money, more people spending money. So you could assume that companies will begin to do better as more people are buying their products. The economy will be more stimulated. So you can look at it that way. And also more people employed, so the unemployment rate would of course decrease. Now, in regards to a second wave, so if you believe that the second wave will be worse than this first one, or you think that the impact or the magnitude of that second wave would be great, then I would watch the stock market closely and potentially set up some hedges so that if the stock market were to go down, you wouldn't lose as much money, whether that's by shorting a company, shorting an index. And if a second wave has an impact on some of the stocks that I hold, like so let's say for example Microsoft, and the price of that stock decreases, I would just see that as an opportunity to buy more, because I would see that in my opinion, I think the impact of a second wave will hopefully be short-lived, and also I hope the US is better prepared to deal with that. So I'm not scared in terms of my investments in regards to a second wave of coronavirus. Yeah, at a minimum, I would say put 10% down on a car. But before then, I would say don't buy a car because of what it is. I guess buy for functionality as opposed to looks and design. I'm kind of a hypocrite saying that, because when I bought a car, I bought for the brand. And in a previous video, I said it was what's up?
What brand is your car?
Anyway, so when it comes to buying a car, I think a lot of people fall into this trap of using credit to buy something that they really can't afford. So whether you're buying a BMW or you're buying an Audi or a Benz, whatever it is, like you may not truly be able to afford that car. You may not be making enough money. You may not have enough saved. So like when it comes to buying a car, try to stick to, I'd say 10% as a down payment, and then overall, like a car expense, I don't believe it should exceed, I forget what the rule of thumb is. Hopefully I can have it populate on the screen somewhere, but I think it's below 30%, around 30% of your, like what you gross. It should be less. I don't know. We're gonna run it back. We're gonna have to run that back. When it comes to buying a car, I think it's important to try to limit your expense. When it comes to buying a car, you should limit that expense to as little of your income as possible. And so of what you make an entire year, your car expenses, this includes your monthly payments, insurance, gas, and all the related expenses, should not exceed more than, let's just say 30% of what you make. For example, if you make, let's say you make $20,000 a year, and your car, like you buy a car that's $10,000, that likely may not be the best decision that you could be making, just because you're spending 50% of what you make to purchase a car. And so just thinking critically about the cars that you're buying. Like, what are you buying it for? Are you buying it to get from point A to point B? Are you buying it because of what it looks like? And just thinking all those things through. To use an example, when I was 20, I bought a Mercedes. In an earlier video, I mentioned that it's the worst decision I ever made, worst financial decision I ever made, just because for the past 2.5 years, I've spent a lot of money just on maintenance with the car payments. I actually paid it off a couple weeks ago, and like collectively, I spent, I think it was a little bit over $20,000 on the car, and I had $20,000 at the time. So yeah, it was just a bad decision. I don't regret it though. I think I've mentioned that a couple times. I don't regret it just because it has brought me a lot of joy, but I would never recommend doing what I did to someone else. And I think a lot of young people, when it comes to buying a car, sometimes don't think critically about what they're getting into. Another thing to consider is that a car, at the point that you buy it, oftentimes it's going to be a liability, not an asset. If you buy a new car, it'll depreciate right away. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates, and then it'll continue to depreciate. So you're spending money even when you're not spending money. And so think about that. If you're buying a car, buy it used with, just buy a used car that's maybe 3 years old or 2 years old, because you're always gonna get a better deal on that. So yeah, I think that's a good place to start when buying a car. Buy it used, make sure that the monthly payment is not more than 10% of what you're bringing home in a given month. Otherwise, you're gonna be spending a lot of unnecessary money just on something that you're driving. Financial literacy is important to me because growing up, my dad, he always emphasized, like, you're black, there's no generational wealth in this family. Any wealth that's created, you're gonna have to do it on your own. We're not rich, don't expect any money from us. Just like work hard, and play it smart. And so starting in middle school, I started saving money, but it was to buy like fruit snacks and buy crackers. And then later on, I started saving because I actually thought, it was crazy like going back and thinking about it, but I thought I would be homeless because I didn't do well academically. And so I always thought, okay, like what if I end up just like living on the street? It'd be nice if I had money saved up so that I could like move around. And I realized that's like insane because like I grew up middle class, so there's really no way in which I would end up homeless, but that's part of how I started saving. And then later on, it was just money gave me so much flexibility and just let me maneuver throughout the world in a way where I didn't have to concern myself with a lot of things. And for me, it's really important just as a black man to know as much as I can about money and finances so that I can set up my family and then also educate other people who look like me and other people my age just about why money is important, why it's important to save, why it's important to invest, and just stay away from like spending money on food every week, or well, outside of what you need, and just like spending recklessly, like whether it's buying clothing like I've done in the past, or like some of my friends do, or buying cars that you can't necessarily afford, or moving out to rent a place when you could just live at home and save that money. Just making smart money decisions, because I guess I've been fortunate that I've never had to worry about money. And then I always told myself that like I never want to be in a position where I have to worry about it. And so that's why like I save so much of what I make, because I just put off buying a lot of things that I want, because there's a pretty long list of things that I want to buy, and I just don't buy them just because I would prefer to save. Cool, you guys didn't know about that homeless thing, did you?
I knew you didn't do very knowledge, brother.
Huh?
On you, boy. He's on you, boy.
Cool. Any other questions that you guys want to ask me though?
I got 2.
We're good? Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right, so we need to put...
If the second wave has an impact on some of the